Hey guys, and welcome back to Fantasy Tip. I'm Julian, and today we're going to be talking about some guys that you can consider dropping for this week, week 9 of the fantasy hockey season. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I would really appreciate the support. I got this Ducks jersey behind me because Jamie Drysdale was absolutely awesome last night in his first NHL game ever, scoring a goal and an assist. So shout out to him. If you want to grab him in your pools, he makes for a pretty decent speculative ad. He's getting a lot of power play time. Now, I just wanted to let you guys know that there are pretty much no players on this list that appeared on the list last week. So if you guys do want to check out the list that I put out for drops last week, you can check it out right up there. Pretty much everybody on that list is still relevant for dropping, and you can pick up some better guys on the waiver wire in all likelihood. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into some drop candidates. Starting off with some forwards, guys. First on the list is Connor Garland, Arizona Coyotes, 54% owned. And I don't absolutely hate this ownership percentage, but the dude has been ice cold. Prior to last game where he recorded a goal and an assist, he had 5 games where he did not record a point at all. Now, yesterday he did get a goal and an assist, which is nice to see, so maybe he will be able to keep up that momentum. You can hold him for a couple more games to see if he is able to keep up that momentum, because he still is getting top power play and top line time. But again, Arizona doesn't score that many goals, and Garland isn't shooting as much as he used to, so I'm not as high on him as I was earlier in the season. That being said, in deeper leagues, you should hang on to him, but in shallower ones, you could consider dropping him if there's someone better on the waiver wire. Next is Anders Lee, New York Islanders, 50% owned, and I don't really get why he's still 50% owned. They announced a couple days ago now that he's done for the season. So why is anybody hanging on to him? You could very much easily drop Anders Lee and free up your IR spot or whatever spot he's taking up right now for somebody else. He's not going to play. Go ahead and drop him. Next is Alex Tuch, Vegas Golden Knights, 48% owned. And if you have the IR plus room, you can keep him. But prior to getting injured, he only had 1 point in his previous 5 games. He's only a third liner. I get that he has better opportunities than a lot of third liners. He does have that top power play time usually. But I mean, 48% owned is pretty high for a guy who does play on the third line. Next are 2 Buffalo Sabres, Victor Olofsson and Sam Reinhart, 49 and 46% owned. And they've both been pretty bad. They've both gone scoreless in their last 5 and 4 games, respectively. And honestly, Buffalo is a gigantic dumpster fire right now. They're not looking very good at all. The thing is, I have asterisks next to their names, though, because Buffalo recently fired their coach. I realize it's been a couple of games since then, but there's a small chance that the team gets a lot better now that their coach is fired. I would give Buffalo Sabres players another couple of games to see if they're able to turn it around a little bit. If they're still sucking after those couple games, you can drop Olofsson and Reinhart in most pools. Next is Adrian Kempe, Los Angeles Kings, 46% owned, and he recently had a stretch of games where he scored 6 goals in 3 games, and 2 of those games were against the Anaheim Ducks. 5 of those goals came against the Anaheim Ducks. I can tell you, if I was Kempe, I'd want to play the Anaheim Ducks every single night. The dude seems to ball out against them. Thing is, since then, he hasn't done anything in 3 games, and he is only skating on the third line. I get that he's top power play, so his opportunities are still there a good amount, but 46% owned seems really high for someone who's on the third line. Next is Jordan Carew, St. Louis Blues, 35% owned, and this one really hurts my heart a little bit because I had him in my pool and I dropped him. But he has not been doing very well since Tarasenko returned, which is a little bit strange considering he's now playing on a line with Tarasenko. But anyway, he's just not performing anymore. He has 1 point in his last 6 games, only plays second power play, which isn't terrible in St. Louis. They have a pretty decent second power play, but he's just not producing right now. So you just kind of have to drop him. He might become a pretty good streamer later on, though, if he turns it around. And he should gain that left wing eligibility really soon, which makes him eligible for all 3 positions, which is really, really cool. Next is Andrew Kopp, Winnipeg Jets, 26% owned. And I've had him on this list for quite some time now. I didn't have him last week because I don't repeat players week to week. But honestly, he's been a third liner for quite a few weeks now, and he hasn't really been producing much. I get that he's second power play in Winnipeg, and that power play actually gets a good amount of ice time. So he's not the worst in super deep leagues, but 26% owned still seems a little high to me. For a guy who's playing on a third line in Winnipeg, that's really not that good. Next is Evgeny Dadonov, the Ottawa Senators, 21% owned. He's scoreless in his last 4 games, and overall on the season, he hasn't been that good. He only has 11 points in 33 games, which is a steep decline from last year when he got 47 in 69. He's just not the same player on Ottawa just because Ottawa just really, really sucks, and he's not playing with the same caliber of players as he was in Florida. Unfortunately, Dadonov is a pretty easy drop right now. Last but not least for forwards is Pavel Zacha, New Jersey Devils, 12% owned. And a couple weeks ago, I said, hey, this guy's really, really hot right now. Pick him up, stream him for as long as he's hot. Well, guess what? He's not hot anymore. And on top of it, he's injured. So there's really no reason to hang on to Pavel Zacha anymore. Jumping into some defensemen now, first and second on the list are Rasmus Ristolainen and Rasmus Dahlin, 61 and 60% owned on Buffalo. Now, Ristolainen has no points in his last 8 games, and Dahlin has no points in his last 5. Now, both these guys only have 8 and 11 points respectively, so they're really not producing this year, and it's unfortunate. But Buffalo is an absolute dumpster fire, and they're really not doing well. They have asterisks, just like the guys I had in the forwards, just because Buffalo recently fired their coach. So there's a chance that they can turn it around, so give them a couple more games. But honestly, Ristolainen was dropped in my league and was not claimed on the waiver wire. Although, if you are in a bangers league where hits count for points, Ristolainen is actually significantly more valuable. He is hitting a lot. He's top 10 right now in the league for hits. So if you're in a hitting league, Ristolainen is someone you can keep. Dahlin is not. Next on the list is Nick Leddy, New York Islanders, 44% owned, and I had him here, and then last night he goes and he scores 3 assists. He's been putting up points like crazy, and it doesn't really make that much sense. Like, his production is pretty unsustainable, kind of like Waiver right now, but hey, he's putting up the points, so you can still have him on your team. That being said, in categories leagues, he's pretty useless aside from the assists that he's been getting. He doesn't really do anything in terms of peripherals. So in points leagues, you can keep him, but in categories leagues, I mean, if you need the points, sure, keep him, but other than that, he's really not doing much. Next is Eric Chernak, Tampa Bay Lightning, 21% owned, and he recently had a stretch where he scored 5 points in 4 games, which is pretty good, but he doesn't really have the opportunity. He's not really given the opportunities to put up points. Like, he's not either power play. He gets a lot of time on, like, penalty kills and stuff. So, like, Chernak is not really a guy that I would depend on in fantasy at all, really. He's putting up a decent amount of shots on goal, but honestly, he's not useful for a whole lot. I would drop Chernak. Next is Michael Del Zotto, Columbus Blue Jackets, 12% owned. He has 1 point in his last 11 games, and his peripherals aren't that great, so do I really have to tell you to drop him? I don't know why he's still 12% owned. Jumping into some goalies now, first on the list is John Gibson, Anaheim Ducks, 61% owned, and over his last 3 games, he's let in 5 goals per game, which is not good at all. His save percentage has been really, really bad lately, and he just hasn't been the greatest goalie. He is a good goalie, though. He just plays for a bad team, unfortunately for him. So for fantasy, he's not super valuable. Obviously, in like super deep leagues where every single team's goalie is taken, well, you're going to hold on to John Gibson. But, you know, in shallower leagues, there's not really a reason to hold him anymore because he's not doing well. And on top of it now, he's injured. So I guess if you have the IR space, you might as well hold on to him. But if you don't, he's a pretty easy drop right now. Next is Chris Driedger, Florida Panthers, 40% owned, and he has not started any of the team's last 5 games. Bobrovsky seems to have finally found his groove, which is nice to see. So Driedger being 40% owned is pretty high right now, considering he may only get back-to-back games from here on out. Next is Braden Holtby, Vancouver Canucks, 38% owned, and that ownership percentage doesn't make any sense. He has not started any of the team's last 7 games, and Thatcher Demko has been absolutely unreal. He's been the best goalie in the league over the last couple of weeks. He's been so good. So why the hell are people still holding on to Holtby? Demko is the real deal, guys. There's no reason to hold on to Holtby anymore. He's only going to get back-to-backs and the occasional other start from here on out. Next is Alex Nedeljkovic, Carolina Hurricanes, 35% owned, and the dude's been unreal. He's been winning games, and he's been putting up some pretty nice save percentages. That being said, Peter Mrazek is coming back soon, which would make Nedeljkovic the number 3 goalie in Carolina. It's kind of like by default, he's relegated to number 3 duties. But guys, once Mrazek is back, Nedeljkovic is not super valuable. So just keep an eye on when he gets back because he's very, very close to returning. Next on the list, guys, is Brian Elliott, Philadelphia Flyers, 27% owned. let me read out some of his latest games. Last game, he let in 5 goals on only 13 shots. The game before that, he let in 3 goals on 10 shots. And the game before that, he let in 4 goals on only 21 shots. Yeah, he's not playing very well at all. Now, I get that Carter Hart hasn't been playing that amazing either, but man, Brian Elliott has just been laying stinkers, and he's someone that's actually hindering your fantasy team right now if you have him. So he's a pretty easy drop. Obviously, I would hold on to Carter Hart because the kid's a stud, and he will turn it around. Next is Jack Campbell, Toronto Maple Leafs, 16% owned. And as a backup goalie, I can't really justify him having a 16% ownership. He's only going to get back-to-back games, and he's been injured too. So I guess if you had the injury space, don't drop him, I guess. I guess that was people's logic. But, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense holding on to Jack Campbell. I get the Leafs do have a back-to-back set this weekend, so Campbell should be ready for that. That's what the news has been saying, that he should probably be ready for that back-to-back set. So sure, hang on to him, play him in that back-to-back set, then drop him because Freddie Anderson will continue to get almost every single start for Toronto. All right, guys, you've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment, ask me a fantasy hockey related question. I'll be happy to answer you. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.